Hey, so I just wanted to make a quick, little rambling type of video that I've made a few times before about something that, most people are probably aware of, but I figured I would just kind of give my take on it, I guess, which is, the so-called AltScape, which of course refers to the fact that it isn't actually efficient to spend any time on your main account uh, making money at all. It's much more efficient to basically have a bunch of other accounts that you play on, or air quotes play on, um, at the same time as you're playing on your main account, and use those accounts to make money in whatever way. It doesn't really matter what way you do it, how profitable it is. Like, you could just make cannonballs or something like that, because you can always be playing on more accounts at once. You could play, if you have like 4 cannonball alts, you're not going to make as much as if you have 10 cannonball alts, you know what I mean? So you're really only limited by how many accounts you can play on at once. Um, so, this really annoys me because, back in the day, all of the, high ranking players just, made their own money, and, people would do like, get their rune crafting to really high XP from just doing nature runes to make all their money that they needed to, get all of their Bibles out of the way. But nowadays, nobody, it's not actually efficient to, do double nature runes or, anything really powerful. It's not efficient to kill Zora. It's not efficient to, kill wyverns or make double astrals or natures, whatever. It's, more efficient to just have an alt account, make cannonballs or whatever, fish sharks even, you know, and then just transfer that money over to your main account and, then use that to do Bibles, and then instead of doing double natures for root crafting, do lavas, which are over twice as fast. And it's just kind of annoying to me because this isn't really the way that, I want to play the game. I would rather just, make all my money from, the profitable skills, and then use that money to get the non-profitable skills. That's just kind of how I like to do it. Like back in the day, we all made like tons of money from Slayer, and then used that money to buy all of our other stuff as well. But again, it's not actually efficient to do that anymore. And I'm not necessarily saying that they should make, multi-logging or trading with your own account like against the rules or whatever, but it is kind of an upside to, the trade limit, because back then, because of the trade limit, this, wasn't really possible, quite honestly, because there was really no good way of just transferring large amounts of money, so you pretty much just had to make, all your own money. And there was other ways, of course, that people could help out high ranking players, but you couldn't really just give them donations when the trade limit was a thing. So I mean, it's, I don't know, it's kind of annoying, and it kind of makes you, it kind of makes it so that, if you're not an Iron Man, then, nobody really cares about your achievements, because, if you got a Bible, you might have had to work really hard to get it, and get 99 rune crafting, or do, tons of hours of wyverns or something like that. But on the other hand, you also might have just, real world traded for it or something, or, played on alternate accounts and then just traded the money over and got it that way. So, it kind of devalues all of the Bibles, really. So, I mean, it's just kind of annoying. Like I said, it makes me, you know, want to play more on like an Iron Man type of account, because on Iron Man you don't really worry about, how much anything is worth, or if the price of anything changes, or, like if, like in a normal account you get like 99 prayer or something, and then later on it becomes like a lot cheaper to get 99 prayer, then you're going to be really salty or whatever. But on Iron Man, obviously you don't really give a shit. So I mean that's kind of the other thing as well. But yeah, I just kind of want to talk about how that and how it's kind of annoying that the only efficient way to play the game is to have a bunch of other accounts that you play on simply for the sole purpose of sustaining your main account financially. Like back in the day, if you saw somebody who had like a herblore cape or a prayer cape or whatever, you just thought to yourself like, oh, I wonder how he made all that money. You look at his stats and you'd see like, oh, there you go, he has really high Slayer and rune crafting, and that makes sense. Whereas now, you see somebody with prayer cape, herblore cape, whatever, and you think to yourself, well, he probably just has a bunch of alts or something. Which in reality might not be the case. Maybe he just did a bunch of Zora or whatever. That's entirely possible, but it brings those things into doubt is what I'm saying. Whereas before, there was no doubt. There was no other way to do it. You had to make your own money all on one account. And like I said, I think that's the way personally, I think the game should be played. I think, it should just be about one account, not having, a ton of different accounts in order to sustain, your one single main account. And it goes even further than just money making as well, because like especially in free to play, I've noticed pretty much the most efficient way to do anything is to use alts. Like for rune crafting, basically the most efficient way to train it is to stand at the body altar and then have a bunch of other accounts bring you essence while you just sit there and turn it into body runes. And it's pretty much the same thing for for members rune crafting as well. Like I'm pretty sure the guy who got 200 mil rune crafting first, that's all he did. He made double nats and he had a bunch of people running him nature runes, or sorry, essence, to make into nature runes, and they probably got to keep the profit or whatever, but he was getting insane XP without really having to do much. And again, it's just kind of annoying because regular players can't really they can't really do that unless they want to make a bunch of accounts and get members on all of them and do it themselves, which again is just kind of a stupid way to play the game in my opinion. I'm not necessarily saying that they should bring the trade limit back or anything. I'm just saying that there was an upside to it, and I think a lot of people think of it as just all downside, but in reality I think it may have actually done more harm than good, because also it does allow people to real wood trade without the trade limit, and that results in a lot more bots in the game, which is obviously not really good for the economy and not really good for the players. So again, I'm not saying that the positives of adding a trade limit outweigh the negatives necessarily. I'm just saying that you know there are actually a lot of positives to it, I guess. Now at this point, the damage is pretty much done though. Obviously, it wouldn't really be fair to add a trade limit at this point because there's a lot of people who have already gotten 200 mil in a lot of skills by using alts as a huge advantage. So if you were to add the limit now, it'd be pretty unfair to the people thereafter. But I think that what you're gonna see is nobody's really gonna care about people unless they're on the front page. They're not really gonna care what their achievements are unless they're an Iron Man, because that's the only real way to ensure that everybody's doing something. That's the only way to ensure that people are actually doing all the work, making all the money, and using it all on the same account, rather than having a bunch of other accounts to make all the money and then using all that money for one single account to make it more impressive. But again, that's just my opinion. Personally, that's not the way that I like to play the game, so I personally don't use alts. Sometimes I do play on my other account usually, but of course that account's just a free to play Iron Man. So personally, I don't. Although I do admit that it is obviously the most efficient way to play the game, but it just personally isn't really fun for me. And I play this game for fun, obviously, and I'm not actually going for ranks or anything, so it doesn't really affect me that much. But it's just kind of something like in the back of my mind that kind of bothers me to think about, I guess.